Welcome to Backstage Buckeye, the podcast where we speak with former athletes about their days wearing the scarlet and gray, but more importantly, how they transition to normal life after their days on the playing field. I'm your host, Lou Willard, and today we have a special guest with us. Played wide receiver for the Buckeyes from 1994 to 1998, securing 2 Big Ten championships, a Rose Bowl championship, and yet another championship win, the Sugar Bowl in 1998, before being drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 6th round of the 1999 draft. Dee Miller. Dee, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, big bro.
How's everything going, man?
Going well, man. Going well. You know, no complaints. Family is healthy. Business is steady.
There you go.
That's all you can ask for.
I can relate. So, with this podcast, like we were talking about earlier before we start recording, we want to just touch on your career a little bit, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but bigger things that we're planning outside of this podcast is what's life like outside of football? So just real quick, when it comes to the football aspect, give me, what's it like? You know, this is you telling people that ask about this show that they don't know. It's hard to explain what it's like to run out in front of 105,000.
Yeah, it was, the older I get, the more, you start reminiscing and you say to yourself, like, man, you did something different. You did something elite.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you take it for granted when you're younger. You kind of do.
You do.
And, just the being there, just waking up every day knowing that you are affiliated with Ohio State football program, it was like a badge of honor. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Something that you took seriously. You realize that, millions of kids have that dream and, you're one of the few that fortunately get to live that dream. I met some of my biggest challenges there, obviously, being recruited in high school and being, the top dog and then having to come back in as a freshman and learn them ropes and learn how to be a collegiate athlete and balance your books, your study versus your social life. But it was the best time of my life, to be honest. I reminisce with all my friends and, we think about like different stuff that we used to do. I think one of us, a lot of us, we regret is, back then your phones wasn't cameras. You know what I mean? So it was like so many photos that we could have taken back in the day. You know what I mean? You had a flip phone, but then you had a camera. You know what I mean? See how technology has merged in over 30 years.
Yeah, we had the old handheld cameras that we had to use. I remember taking those on the bowl trip.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I wanted to start this podcast for, because for all of us, our experiences are different. Mm-hmm. And for all you guys that saw the podcast I did with myself, my experience was totally different from Dee's experience. And both of those situations were situations we created for ourselves. They were self-inflicted for better or for worse. And Dee had a great career. Give me the thing that you miss most about playing football. I know when people ask me, for me, I thought about it, and I lost a lot of time with you guys by the situation I went through. Mm-hmm. And I know I missed that. And I missed the locker room. Mm-hmm. I missed the locker room was what I missed. What say you?
Just the camaraderie, you know what I mean? Just the camaraderie of the fellas. It's not necessarily running out in front of everybody. It's not necessarily making your biggest play, but, you realize that, all of us come in as 18-year-old boys.
Yes.
And we make mistakes, and then we're, just trying to become young men and responsible young men. And now that we're older, I see like all of my peers as fathers, entrepreneurs, and you start just reminiscing about how people were before all of that. And how unpolished everybody was. And
yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I'm gonna tell you what, that's a wild thing, because I think, which I'm gonna have my old roommate on here on the show too, Buster Tillman.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna get Bus on. And I mean, we didn't want to get up in the morning and go 3 a day. See, back then people, they had 3 a days. We didn't even want to do that. So how are we gonna become an entrepreneur and run a business?
Right.
Now everybody does, it seems.
Right.
So after your playing days, which I'll let you tell people how that ended with the Packers.
Yep.
But tell us how that transition went from games to. I mean, can you imagine people having a fob the Lambeau Field? They didn't have fobs then, but you guys had the key cards to get in like we did. But anyway, that's a special time. Tell us a little bit about that time and then your transition in the normal life in the business world.
So like after Ohio State was drafted by Green Bay in the 6th round, 99 class, and even looking back at that experience, now that I'm older, when I got drafted in the 6th round, it was more like pride kind of thing because I thought I should have got drafted like earlier, and I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I was happy to be drafted, but then you also think about all the money that you have lost.
Yeah.
But I wish I was able to kind of just block that away and just forget about it and then just play ball.
And enjoy the moment.
That's something that I regret. Getting up to camp, man, it was doing really, really well. They had just traded Derek Mays to Seattle. And, I tore my meniscus in practice. And hear me, I'm just thinking, all right, it's 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be right back. You know what I mean? And in the league is not like that. I was a 6th rounder. My signing bonus is only $55,000. They didn't have a lot of money invested in me. I had a history of knee problems. That's why I slid to the 6th. Mm-hmm. And they ended up releasing me. Gave me an injury settlement, so I came back and was working out here. And then Seattle called, was out there in the off season. Then after the draft, they had drafted 3 wide receivers, obviously. So I was the odd man out. And, I really felt like Seattle was where I was really starting to kind of like really understand the NFL.
Yeah, find your groove.
Find my groove a little bit, more patient with the routes. I felt better as a player in Seattle than I did in Green Bay. They ended up releasing me, and then came back home, and I was kind of like, this is this is not going as well as I thought it was. And I was kind of like on the mends of, was I going to keep trying? And something just told me, like, man, just keep going. So like when you get older, you won't have any regrets. So Chicago signed me, and this was the first time where usually, like when you go to different teams, people will like give you a physical, you know what I mean? And before you even let you work out, I got to Chicago, was no physical, was no nothing. I mean, straight to camp. They just called me fresh legs.
Fresh legs. Everybody else burned
I'm right
out.
here, I'm running all these 9 routes. But, and that was like, I was laying in the camp, and I kind of knew like the writing on the wall once I got there. And they released me, man. And then after that, I said, I got to come back home. I didn't have my degree, so I had to finish, get my degree, end up graduating, I think June of 2001, possibly.
Nice.
And when I came back, man, it was just like, what now? Kind of like, what am I going to do now?
Yes.
My degree was in sociology. So I was just kind of lost, man, looking for that transition. And I started working at Ohio Youth Advocate Program, which was like a blessing in disguise for me because it was a group home. And I dealt with like all these kids that, I mean, could have been done through in the towel on life.
Yes.
You feel me?
Yes.
And like, here I am, was like, man, feeling sorry for myself because I wasn't in the NFL.
Yes.
And I'm coming here, I'm like, man, this is real life. Like, how am I feeling sorry about myself? And I'm seeing these dudes go through this.
And don't know if they're going to have enough to eat when they get home.
Exactly. So that like opened me up and was like, man, my career wasn't a failure.
Yes. Yes.
I did do something good.
Exactly.
I did do something special. And the more I started believing in that and started transitioning, so I went from Ohio Youth Advocate Program. I went to AT&T, and that was like my first business-to-business sales. And that was cool. I was like, man, you get to drive around and talk to people, you know what I mean, and sell things.
Not
you know
stuck inside all day.
Yeah. So that's when I found out, like, okay, marketing might be okay. Then, MCI, that world went tumbling down, and then I came over to State Farm. And the way I found State Farm was just scratching, clawing, beating the fences. Like, man, I gotta find something else. Because after AT&T, I went back to the group home, and I was just saying, it has to be more to life than this. And I called this girl, Andrea Barletta, who I went to high school with. She was crushing it in pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
And that's when pharmaceutical sales was
blowing up.
Man, I called her, and I'm selling myself to her like she the decision maker.
Hey, you gotta check every box though. You gotta check every box.
But she said, man, it's really, really hard to get into pharmaceutical sales with no experience. And she was absolutely right. And she was like, you need to call this guy by the name of Al Sicard. He's a State Farm agent. He used to play basketball for the University of Dayton.
Okay.
He seems to do really, really well. And I'm like, insurance? So I call him. I go down there, pull up, see a vet in the parking lot. And I'm like, okay. Walk into the office, professional staff. He sits me down and we're talking. He was just telling me about his experience and how he transitioned from sports to insurance, me being from Springfield, going to Ohio State, felt that could be a good transition for me. And, he took me over Travis Trice, who's also a State Farm agent in Dayton. There's another Darnell Hoskins. So I'm seeing like all these African-American business owners.
Yeah.
Which was mind-blowing.
That's mind-blowing back then.
So I slid on in, man, and this January I'll be celebrating 20 years.
Awesome. I was going to ask you that because I know it was getting to be pretty far in it.
Yes.
That's a wild ride, and you touched on something of how you realized that your career wasn't a failure way early on. I'm 51 years old as we record this podcast. I'm only 10 years, maybe 15, 20 years into that. I really broke out and got back around you guys in 2008, 09, somewhere around then.
Yep.
And everybody's like, hey, where you been? I stepped foot out of the network. That's the importance of this podcast, is to show everybody you stream through this stuff different and you have a great success, you have a great career, beautiful family, you can discuss them if you like. Mm-hmm. But as you get into this kind of thing, it's so weird for everybody because I had never even had a job where I worked inside. And I'm like, what am I going to go do? And I didn't get a signing bonus. Mm-hmm. What I had was a wife and a kid. Mm-hmm. Now I have a wife and two, been married for 31 years. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
You got married when I was 20. Yeah. Had my kids at 21 and 25, so it's a different track. Mm-hmm. All the while trying to avoid past mistakes, which is just going to let you circle back into them. So that's what I'm hoping as we grow our network here, that these younger guys can come on and see Don't Be 52 and miss all that time. I love the time I've had, and I do it all over again because now I realize the value of what we have in front of us and what we actually did then, because that is special. That is really special. How do your kids feel about, your kids are younger, mine are 30 and 27, mm-hmm. 27 in a couple mm-hmm. weeks, but how do they feel about when they see all these guys they heard about? They'll see Eddie, he has a Heisman. Mm-hmm. How do they feel about you? Are you just still dad?
I'm still dad. Like, I showed Drew like a highlight against Penn State. That was the first time he was like, man, how'd you catch that? Or like, but he I think obviously he respects me, but I'm still dad. And, I always just try to tell him like, the league is not my goal for you.
Exactly.
I need to let him know that early.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We wasn't told that early. And I think, you get to Ohio State, it's like league or bust.
That's the only reason I went to college.
Yeah. league or bust. And when you say league or bust, psychologically, you know what I mean? It's hard to get to the league, but when we don't achieve it, it's like, man, and it's not really a bust, you know, and I think it takes a lot of time for a lot of athletes to realize that because you made it such a high level, or guys that, like myself, that, you know, had their toe in the NFL and it was just so close, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out.
Yeah, that carrot got pulled away.
Yeah, so, you know, I think like this here, and I understand kind of like, you know, I have friends that started with us in '94 and unfortunately for whatever reason transferred, flunked out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I reach out to those kids. It's like, yo, man, like, hey, yo, you know, what you doing? Where you at? Like, you ain't gotta stay up underneath a rug just because you didn't finish.
Yes.
We entered, bro, you're healthy, you got a beautiful family. Come back, man, hold your head up high, man, and get back with the homies.
So, you know, and not to cut you off there, D, but what he's telling you guys is the story. I've heard this story. I've heard it from these guys. I'm one of those people. I'll have the guy that called me on the show one time to get me back in. He'll be on the show. Has a very, very successful company now. But yeah, that Buckeye networking bond is way more powerful than I gave it credit for. And then I was in the mindset, like you said, so many of us are back then, there are no mulligans. A mistake's a mistake and you're done. Mm-hmm. No, look, if you make a mistake, apologize for it. Mm-hmm. You'll be accepted back in the group. Mm-hmm. And once you're in that group and your word is true, off and running for whatever you choose to do in life. You know, speaking of which, you know, like, what advice would you give, not our younger selves, because we're asked that all the time. Mm-hmm. When I say we're going to speak with younger people and have younger Buckeyes on this show, I mean younger as in their 30s for me. I mean, in their 30s. What advice would you give that group?
Man, I would say learn patience, but stay steadfast, not complacent. I think most of us, we don't know what we like in our 20s because we spent our whole lives like playing football and then trying to transition and figuring like what we want to do. I would say stay patient with that because, you know, you really find your groove in your mid 30s, your 40s. Yep. You know what I mean? And athletes, we have a hard time with patience. We're used to controlling what we control. All right, I want to be faster. Let me work harder. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And career doesn't go like that. You could be prepared, but you got to start at the bottom, entry levels, and work your way up. And I think sometimes that discourages athletes. And not to skip all over, but I think even with some of these players making this NIL money, all of them guys are not going to go to the NFL. Yes. Right? So I see a pay cut coming for a lot of those guys and how they're going to be able to deal with that. Yes. So, but yeah, man, I just think when you look at it, I now look, you know, I'm 49. I'll be 50 in December.
Well, there you go.
I'm getting there, half a century. You know, that's when I look back and would tell I was like so impatient.
Yes.
I was so impatient because you saw so much in the NFL. You know what I mean? You saw so many things that you wanted, right?
And you know, to piggyback off of that, one of my biggest things was I refused to forgive myself. You have to have some self-forgiveness in order to take that next step. And it's hard because you walk in Ohio State's locker room, Penn State, you walk in University of Otterbeин's locker room. My son played D3 baseball. My daughter played D2 volleyball. Your kids are starting off and looking like really good athletes. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know they're young, but sometimes it's just different. It hit different. But what you're dealing with when you walk in these locker rooms, everybody's a type A personality. So type A personalities to sit around, they want you, that's lazy. Mm-hmm. So it's go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. But all the while we were going with the football in our hands, no one taught us finances, anything like that. And like you brought up a great point with this NIL. my wife and I talk about this. I'm like, man, I hope somebody, and I trust University of Ohio State is one of those colleges, universities, that is teaching these kids about money. Like a lot of that NIL money need to be put up. You know, we don't need to be, 17, 18 years old driving around in a $200,000 car just because you can go get it right now.
Oh, they're doing it.
Yeah, and I know, I see it. And I'm just like, I know that's easy for me to say because I'd have been the kid in the $200,000 car. So I don't mean to be hypocritical.
Right.
I'm just trying to help them out, But, that's great advice. We are going to be trying to do some things, and I can't wait to see where we go with it. If it's okay with you, go ahead and talk a little bit about your family.
Man, so my wife is, her name is Lisa. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. She's probably been the backbone through like this. It's crazy because it's like everything I experienced, it was like with her.
Yeah.
I'm saying everything. Getting drafted, getting cut, going through, trying to find myself and all of that. She's kind of just been that quiet backbone.
Just being your rock.
Just being my rock. So, man, she's having a really, really good career. She does facial plastics at Ohio State University.
Oh, nice.
The Dublin location. So we're Buckeyes, man.
Oh, yeah, through and through.
Hey, we live this life. We live this life, man. And got a son, Drew. He is 11. He's in the 6th grade. He goes to Hyatt's middle school, plays football, basketball. He runs track. And my daughter in London, she just turned 9. She's in the 4th grade. She goes to Cider Ridge.
And she got her mom's speed.
And yeah, she kind of, she's surprising everybody right now, I think, in our household. We thought she was going to be really, really quiet, and she's just been studying. She started out in career cheer, and we was locked into that, man.
Yes.
She has picked up the basketball. Found out this morning she made the A team.
Really?
Yeah, so she is excited about that, man. And that's it, man. It's my world is the office here, and supporting them and making sure I can be the most present dad as possible.
Yeah, and that's a tough time. You guys are headed, and as we've talked, you guys are headed to a point where you'll be in Virginia. Lisa's going to be in Indiana. That's your life coming up over the next couple of years, because unless your kids choose not to, they're not playing. Nothing against rec sports. They have a value. They really do. I love them. But these kids are looking at elite levels of travel, the way stuff is going down. I mean, these kids are getting on planes at 10.
Yes.
I mean, that's crazy to me. I can't fathom that. I just had to drive.
Yeah.
But we flew a little bit with ours, but they were older when we did that. But that's where you guys are headed, and that time together is irreplaceable, man. I mean, our kids live in Colorado Springs and Charlotte, and we are close as we've ever been because of those car rides.
Right.
So if you can drive.
Yeah.
That's just a little selfish stuff where keep them in the car and drive.
Yeah, man. It's kind of like, glad you said that, because, sometimes you're coaching and like tonight we have practice and I'm like, I got practice tonight.
And it's hot.
And then everybody is like, man, take your time with it, because there's going to be a point, like this is my last year coaching my son. You know what I mean? Like, so, this is it before I send him off to, faculty and staff to coach him. So it's been a fun ride, especially with him. But like just seeing how my daughter is just like changing and breaking out of things. And man, she got up, I was leaving to go to the gym, and she got in the garage. And I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, I'm about to go run on the treadmill. I'm like, really? You know what I mean? It's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I come back, she was like, yeah, I ran 1.1 miles on the treadmill. I was like, go.
Look, I drove 1.1. I drove 1.1 and got out. My back was tight.
There you go, girl, man. So having fun with that, man. That's about it.
Good. Well, I appreciate your time today. But before we go, please tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Dee Miller, 614-876-5717, or you can go to dmiller.com. Catch us there.
There it is, Dee. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Oh, man, appreciate you.
You guys, that's it for this episode of Backstage Buckeye. Everybody have a great day.